to the NFL in 1999, Browns quarterbacks are last in the NFL in win percentage, touchdown to interception ratio, and yards per attempt. They've also had a lot of quarterbacks in that time, right? 40 of them. That's 10 more than any other team in the NFL. They've got a lot of quarterbacks on the roster now. In order for the Browns to shake this trend, they'll need a lot better QB play. What have you been hearing about how Cleveland's been handling that room during camp?
Yeah, 4 guys that are candidates to start games for them this year. The veterans, Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. The rookies, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. The issue is getting everybody enough reps so that they can make a call. The Cleveland coaching staff has been creative about finding ways to get guys work. They'll put the rookies on one field for 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 while the veterans are on another field doing the same work. It'll be interesting to see once they get to training camp how that all breaks down. But so far through the offseason, it has been the veterans working with the first team and the rookies, Gabriel and Sanders, working mainly with the backups so far.
Yeah, interesting, and you're right. Whenever it gets a little bit more serious, people need real reps. So I'm going to be fascinated to see how they work it out. Let's check in, by the way, on that Browns quarterback room where the 17-year age gap between Shedeur Sanders and Joe Flacco is on full display.
You ever hit that there?
What's that? Definitely not. I don't know if I've ever hit a public dance move in my life.
I love it. Joe Flacco is just like saltiness embodied. By the way, I was told that Joe Flacco was a junior in high school when Shedeur Sanders was born.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Joe, I hope you're not watching right now.
I was too.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, oh no.
Life is coming at us way too fast.
Let's move on before we all. Mandatory minicamps back underway this week as we welcome you into NFL Live. You see Mike Vrabel there. You're going to see him just a little bit. Well, you see what he says at least. So glad you're with us. Phil Yates is here. Mina Kimes, Damian Woody, Dan Graziano. We have a packed show, a lot to get to, you guys. So let's dive right in. We're going to begin in New England, of course, as you just saw Vrabel there. Of course, there they are, arriving for mandatory minicamp. Drake May and company getting more reps together with Mike Vrabel as head coach. Pivotal year for the Pats. They made a lot of essential additions to this team. Here's Vrabel with more today.
That's evolving, and that's a work in progress. I think we're all learning each other a little bit. I think we're all kind of learning the system and learning the plays, and once we master it, I think that's going to start to separate itself. I think it's a unique position being 22, right? It's kind of unique in that sense. And so I think that there is a lot of room to grow. I think there's a lot of natural leadership qualities. I think I have to encourage him and continue to encourage him and to put him in those positions to do that.
The 22-year-old reference, of course, is Drake May. We're joined by our Patriots reporter, Mike Reese, who was on the scene at minicamp. Mike, what did you see from Drake May becoming more of a leader in practice?
So, Laura, you just heard Mike Vrabel say he wants to put Drake May in positions to be a leader. And I want to share with you something I just saw on the practice field within the last hour in which he did that. It's a very unique drill. Mike Vrabel lined up the entire offense along the goal line, and he said to Drake May, you go in the middle here, and you call out the cadence. Let them know what's coming. And on the snap count, they would all sprint 30 yards. And they did it once, they did it twice, they did it about 4 or 5 times. So it was conditioning work, but it was also for Drake May's voice to sort of boom across the practice field and let it be heard. And then, Laura, after practice, I asked Drake May, I said, when Mike Vrabel puts you in that position, how does it challenge you? And he said the biggest thing for him is he doesn't want to put his teammates in a bad position by having them jump early on the snap count. So he said he feels responsible for them. And it's something, Laura, I have to tell you, in 25 years, I have never seen the Patriots do that. So a new wrinkle from Mike Vrabel putting Drake May in that position.
Fascinating insight, as always, from Mike Reese. The other thing that sticks out to me, Mike, there is the leadership of Vrabel, what we're going to expect from him as a head coach. Great stuff from you. We'll check back in with you as Pats minicamp continues on. Now, nothing came easy for Drake May, of course, in year one. Among 58 QBs since 2000 to make 10 starts as a rookie, May was outside the top 20 in yards per attempt and touchdown to interception ratio. He was also 40th in win percentage. Patriots had a league-high 13 different offensive linemen start a game as well, so that's probably a big reason why. The field, I mean, there's so many reasons.
Yeah.
You saw the struggles from Drake May last year. How can Josh McDaniel, of course, the offensive coordinator, make things easier for him?
A lot of ways, Laura. I know that the rest of the crew will talk about the offensive line, design and the increased weapons around Drake May this upcoming season. But I want to take you back to week 16 of last year, and there were reporters in the Boston area asking then offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt about, do we have to see a little bit more of Drake May as a design runner? He's the 6'4", 225, excellent athlete. And that was the first week all season, week 16, in which the Patriots ran a single designed run for Drake May. He had 3 in that game. Those were his only 3 for the entirety of the season. There were times last year where, yes, the coaching was poor, but it felt like the Patriots simply weren't taking advantage of some of the best resources that Drake May has to offer. I'm not saying he's going to evolve immediately into a player like Josh Allen, who has a similar stature to, but part of Josh Allen's incredible MVP-level success is that on any play, he might be just as likely to run the football as he would as he is throw the football as well.
You know, Phil, that's so crazy because you know Drake May's athletic profile and the athletes in his family, it's hard to believe that they only ran a designed run week 16. But I want to focus on the offensive line. And think about it, that's really was the main issue with the Patriots offensively. Just the lack of being able to open up holes, the lack of protection up front. So what do the Patriots go out and do? They go out there and get 3 new starters. Obviously, Will Campbell, the number 4 pick from LSU, he's going to be the blindside protector for Drake May. You go out and get Garrett Bradbury at center position. You go out here and solidify the interior. And then you get Morgan Moses, the veteran right tackle. So you protect the edges and you solidify the interior. If that group can be cohesive and get going early, it will do wonders for Drake May because that was really a sore spot for that Patriots offense.
It wasn't just a sore spot. I mean, it's the worst offensive line in football last year, Damien. I feel like comfortable saying that Drake May faced the highest quick pressure rate of any quarterback in the league. And even though I thought he played really well in spite of it and made some pretty outstanding plays and throws under pressure and scrambles, which Field alluded to, there were also moments, where his deserved lack of trust in the offensive line, I thought, led to some bad habits. Even when he did have clean pockets, you could see him grow a little bit skittish. Again, understandably so. And what concerns me when you talk about young quarterbacks is those bad habits can compound over time. Especially thinking back to college. Drake May played behind a bad offensive line his final year at UNC. Played behind a bad offensive line his rookie season in the NFL. If they can't get this fixed, and to Damien's point, they've certainly invested in it, then you start worrying about his developmental curve being impacted by it. So I think the offensive line is key to everything with New England this season.
Yeah, and I think that developmental curve is the thing to really pay attention to because you hear Mike Vrabel talk about Drake May still being 22 years old. It's not a coincidence that he's pointing that out, right? That's a way of sort of managing expectations. There are people I've talked to around the league who are kind of looking at this Patriots team and saying, hey, don't be surprised if they're better than you think. I think that reflects a respect for Vrabel and a belief that as a head coach, his teams generally win at least as many games as their talent indicates that they should. But it's still a building year, and I think they have a lot to sort out. Is the new offensive line going to come together the way they hope? Is the rookie left tackle going to be good right away? And what happens in that receiving corps? They brought in some new guys, obviously, but they have a lot to sort out in terms of who makes the team and what the roles are in the wide receiver group for Drake May's second season.
Yeah, it's, I think, a cautionary tale that's worth pointing out to Graz's point there. There's so many different elements of this that have to come together. They spend a lot of money, but how does it end up looking at on the field? All right, to some news. The Texans are expected to sign Nick Chubb. Great for Chubb to get a chance to keep playing, but also a sneaky great addition to the Texans offense, I think. Joe Mixon already there, of course, but we know they could use some help with that run game. Let's remind you, the Texans have not emphasized the run game in 2 seasons under DeMeco Ryans, calling for designed rushes on just 38% of their plays, which ranks 20th in the league. They also rank at or near the bottom of the NFL in rushing touchdowns, yards after contact per rush, and third down conversion percentage in that span. Could help C.J. Stroud to get the run game going. We said that so many times last season. What do you think about this move for Houston with Nick Chubb?
Understandable for them to want to add depth behind Joe Mixon, but I think what we saw last year with Joe Mixon was this run game wasn't a running back away from being fixed. Yeah. Joe Mixon's a good back, but even he couldn't, as you saw there, run efficiently behind that offensive line. And I think whether or not they can run the ball better is going to come down to a couple of things. One, they remix the offensive line a little bit. Laramie Tunsil out, Cam Robinson in, moving some pieces around. Can they be better And then can their new offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, find a way to call a run game that is suited to both the backs he has and the line he has? He comes from the Rams, Laura, which over the last few years has undergone an interesting transformation in their run game, going from more of a zone-based attack to a downhill gap scheme. So I'm curious to see what Nick Caley's approach towards running the football looks like with this offense, because if it's anything like the last 2 years, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, and Mina, it's going to be, I know that last year was a very influential year for Nick Caley. He has one season in Los Angeles after previously being with the Patriots, kind of reinvigorate and give you some new ideas when you go to two very different systems. The Texans needed at least one more back added to this backfield. Woody Marks they drafted this past year out of USC as well. More of a change of pace receiving back. But how about this? Last season, Joe Mixon had 5 games, actually in his first 7 outings, with at least 25 carries. Joe Mixon's going to be 29 in a month, Laura. For a running back, that's an aging player. Just a matter of fact. That is not the form. Nick Chubb didn't have a single 20-yard run last season. I do think that Nick Chubb will be a better player second year back from that major injury. We have seen a lot of players coming off of injuries similar to that, where it takes them legitimately a full season to get back to closer to their normal self.
No secret, Nick Chubb's been through just the gauntlet when it comes to the injury situation, but I agree, especially maybe lightening some of that load for Joe Mixon, who's been a key piece of that offense, even helping C.J. Stroud at times. C.J.'s been pretty vocal about that. Roz, that brings me to C.J. Stroud. He hasn't been participating in off-season activities due to shoulder soreness. Is this something we should be concerned about?
Sure, anytime the quarterback's shoulder hurts, it's something to be concerned about. There's no doubt about it. Now, when I started out as a sports writer a very long time ago, I was told never underplay an injury. The team will try and downplay the injury, so don't ignore it, because sometimes it ends up worse than you think. All that said, checking in with the Houston Texans, doesn't sound like there's a super high level of concern. They're just trying to manage him through the offseason. We will see how much work he's able to do, if any, in terms of throwing at the mandatory minicamp. And then, of course, we'll have an eye on it as training camp comes closer. But if you compare this to, say, the Anthony Richardson situation in Indianapolis, it sounds like a lower level of concern.